Just to be free like the wind, Nothing would stop me. Not anything. Life just gets tangled up in things you didn't ask for.
I had dreams once, too. Who I might be, could be. But they all vanished when the virus came. Now it's just about surviving, isn't it?
Well, it's a new world, man. It can be what you want it to be.
Maybe, if you have the courage. Sometimes I think I might have the courage to leave. Start a new life for myself. But I couldn't do it on my own.
Welcome to Series 3, Episode 44 of Conversations on Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host, Lance, and joining me in the podcast panel today is Liz.
Hello.
Sabine.
Hi.
And Tamsin.
Hello.
With episode notes done by Matt and myself. So Series 3, Episode 44. The screenplay was done by Tony Osborne. It was directed by Danny Mulheron, and the episode synopsis was read out by Tamsin.
Lex's first day as sheriff hits a snag. Bray considers his future and Casey wants to be a loser.
Sorry, that line just made me laugh. I hadn't read it properly before.
I get it, because at first you're like, what does that mean? But then when you watch the episode, you're like, oh, I get it. That's actually really
That's
sweet.
kind of cute.
Yeah.
Is it weird that I only liked Casey and May in this whole episode?
No, it's not weird.
Everyone else just annoyed me.
Casey was a shining star. Like, it's if you left this episode not loving him, we can't be friends.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
You do?
Well, sure. He's a talented fellow, your Luke. I suspect he practically ran the Chosen single-handedly. But see, that's the problem. If it was my army, I'd use him. But it isn't Ellie. See, the fact is he's not liked or trusted around here.
That never stopped you.
That's true.
So yeah, what do you think of Ellie's visit to Ebony? And yeah, I have to ask, why are these stupid mole rats comfortable with letting Ebony of all people, run things?
Well, that's an easy one. Nobody wants to do it. She's the only one with, well, any form of leadership skills left. So, yeah, I guess they figured she's better than the Guardian, and Bray seemed to trust her, so, just go with her.
They're also all doing their own things as well. They're all far too distracted, like they were in season 2, to notice what's going on. Why do you think it's interesting, just the apathy that the mole rats slip into all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it does ring true to teenagers, though, I think, because they just don't have necessarily that staying power that you have when you're an adult to get things done.
But let's simply look at who's there right now. I mean, Bray is sort of missing, so we're Trudy and Amber. Lex is out there playing sheriff with pride. Then we have May, who is not leadership material. Ellie, yeah, no. Alice is, well, preoccupied being stupid. That leaves the kids, or Salene.
Yeah, there's nobody.
As a storyteller, I find myself a little torn here because I happened to look at this question earlier. It's like, how do I feel about it? Like, my knee-jerk reaction is to say, this is terrible. This is terribly done. That, nobody has any questions about her being in charge. And then, of course, I go back to season 2 because I want to look at what I think is good writing and figure out why did it work here and it doesn't work here, right? And I'm looking at season 2 and I'm like, they were just as dumb to have Ebony in charge, but they acknowledged they didn't want her there. Like, it was in there. It was in their dialogue. They talked about it. They were always fussing about it. It's very clear that they were basically blackmailed into accepting her as a leader because she got Bray into a tight spot. They were fresh off the trauma of Eagle Mountain. It was a really easy situation for Ebony to wiggle her way into. we discussed, but it was always there. The kids were always discussing. They don't trust her. They don't want her there. Salene straight up said, I don't like her. I don't trust her, but Bray does. And we need her. If he says we need her, this is what we have to deal with. So at least it was there in the narrative that this was not the ideal situation, having Ebony in charge. And it was a part of their conflicts all the time, having to deal with Ebony. Even if we, the observers, felt that the writers didn't always do their best in giving these guys a reason to keep her around. We knew why she had to be around, but, we were like, they could have given a better reason for her to still be there, And here I'm like, okay, what's missing? Nobody's actually complaining about Ebony being in charge. Nobody seems to be all that wary. I mean, so far, Ellie is literally the only person who has shown wariness about Ebony being in a position of authority or anything Ebony might be trying to do, any interest Ebony has in anybody. Ellie's the only one who seems to remember that Ebony's not trustworthy, that you got to watch her. And I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, is there a defense for this? And I mean, this might be weak. You don't have to agree with me, but I think that maybe it is because these guys have short memories. Let's just admit it. They do. And I think Thompson nailed it, like the apathy of youth. Ebony hasn't caused problems for any of these people for quite some time. Now, granted, as adults, we wouldn't be goldfish, okay? Our memories would go back more than a few weeks to remember that somebody is a problem and can't be trusted. But taking these kids and their world, it has been quite some time since Ebony's caused any problems. For many of these kids in the mall, Ebony, as far as I know, was simply working with the rebels, helped bring down Zoot. She's been on her best behavior. She hasn't been antagonistic to anyone. She hasn't picked any fights with anyone. She's been a voice of reason when their own leaders are falling apart. Their own leaders, the people they look to, once again, aren't there, don't have the answers, don't have the guiding steady hand. And yet she's been the one true north going forth here. Like, she's been the only one who hasn't seemed to let any personal feelings get in the way of her decisions. She doesn't seem to be caught up in any personal dramas like everybody else is. She's not distracted. She's kept her eye on the ball. She's been a team player. So when I look at it from that point of view, and these people, I guess I understand why nobody seems to care that Ebony has literally stepped into shoes of leadership. She's disguising her want for power so well. Like, she is really playing the long game. Well done, Ebony. That even if you had a problem with her, if you're looking for something current to have a problem with, she's giving you nothing. Like, if you wanted to complain about Ebony being in charge, I guarantee, like, say if you went to Bray and said, like, dude, have you noticed that Ebony's in charge of everything these days? And isn't that a bad idea? Almost anyone, including Bray, would be like, why? Why are you still holding on to old crap? She hasn't done anything. She's been great, blah, 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 blah. You'd be shouted down if you brought up the very valid point that maybe we shouldn't put our tribe in her hands because of her past. So I guess it does make sense, even if I'm like, yeah, she just slid into this and nobody seems to notice or care at all. They're all just too busy doing their own thing to notice. Kudos to her. I'll give her points for taking advantage, but
it does make me wonder, though. Why didn't Tyson step up?
She never wanted that. You guys have always called her power hungry, but she's not. She's never wanted to be the leader of the group.
Nobody can imagine her not wanting Ebony to be in charge that way.
Yeah,
but that's not her way.
Yeah, she doesn't. That's not her thing. Yeah. I mean, Ebony isn't doing anything that even Tyson can complain about.
Fair enough.
So Tyson's like, whatever. As long as she's not going against my moral code, I don't care what she's doing. Ebony is playing it very well. She is tiptoeing around these people like an acrobat. Nobody has anything they can argue about against Ebony right now. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's why she's able to be in this position and nobody freaking cares, because she's being so careful not to rub anybody the wrong way.
Yeah.
She's even being nice to the kids, for Pete's sake.
I was going to add, bringing it back to your initial question about Ellie asking Ebony for a job, the point was made that the only person who seems to remember that Ebony is a bit shady is Ellie, And then Ebony wins her round in this scene by offering her not only a possible job for Luke, but also a possible job for herself. And it's a really good way of sort of taking her from someone who is concerned, who has questions, to making her on your payroll. It's a really good move from Ebony. She neutralizes Ellie.
Yeah, as he did with Lex.
Yeah, because I mean,
by making him sheriff.
Yeah, because I mean, if Lex had wanted to go for that role, I mean, I know it was a long time ago, but he was once a joint leader with Amber and Bray. I mean, I'm assuming that they never sort of revoked that. So if they disappeared, which they did, he would kind of be the leader. So yeah, taking him out of the equation, but making him feel like a big man is, again, genius on Ebony's side.
Yeah, it's a very Ebony thing to do.
I don't know if it's just that Ebony is handling this much better than she would have in the past, and that she is really, really, really playing the long game here. But she has managed to not antagonize a single person continuously for a while. She and the Guardian are playing the same game of disarming everyone around them into thinking, oh, they're not a threat. Now, granted, I admit with you, Lance, like, really, you guys, your memories are very short. But again, I'm just accepting the reality of this world and the way these guys function. I guess it works in this reality that she's able to do this and that nobody has a complaint about her being in charge because of the way she's doing it. Instead of antagonizing people, she's neutralizing possible threats. You know, she's bargaining with people very carefully, and she is hiding what it is she's actually after. She behaves like, as you said, Ellie comes to her and, brings up Luke. Now, we already know Ebony's interested in Luke, but she plays it off as if she's not, as if she couldn't use him because of his position. Like, I don't want that kind of smoke. He's a wanted guy, I don't want to deal with that. But then when she sees Ellie's disappointment, she slides it in like, but I'll do you a favor. I'm going to do you a solid and I'm going to find a way to work with him, even though it wouldn't be good for me. Putting she and Ellie on good terms, neutralizing Ellie. And so Ellie sees it as, oh, wow, she's doing me a favor, even though it wouldn't be good for her to help Luke. She's going to do it anyway. That looks like good leadership. You know what I mean? Like, she's just being very clever about how she handles, how she's playing everybody, and I can see why they still should, but I get why they're not looking at her like she's a problem, because they all live in today. There's only a few characters who ever have their past held up against them. Trudy will never be forgiven, you know what I mean? But there are plenty of characters that it doesn't matter what they did in the past. It's forgotten. We've moved on, As for Ellie, I felt for her desperation to find something for Luke. I mean, Luke hasn't given Ellie anything to work with. Ellie is clearly trying her hardest to find a way for them to live and have a life together. And Luke is just determined to be as miserable as possible and bring his girlfriend down with him. Even though it's like, dude, I chose you. I chose you above everything. Please work with me. And so I liked the desperation when she finally goes to Ebony. And it does say something that Ebony is the only person in this mall who seems to have her ducks in a row, that Ellie felt like going to her for help. She didn't go to her sister. She didn't go to Lex or Pride. She went to Ebony, of all people, because she's the only one who has been, what would you say, just not emotionally compromised by anything that's happening around her.
She's neutral.
Yeah. And so that desperation, could you please, I understand how people feel about him. I'm not asking anybody to like him, but could you please give him a purpose? I'm desperate. She almost lets slip that he's on the brink, and I like how that played out. I even like the fact that when she's talking to Luke about starting the amulet, like, Ebony gave her that spark of her old self. I used to have dreams. I used to have wants and things. And the Chosen took that. My life was ripped away and I stopped wanting things for myself. I went straight into survival mode. I just wanted to stay alive, keep my friends and family alive. And Ebony reminds her, you used to have dreams and desires, Ellie. You have a talent. And the way Ellie lights up at the idea of, oh my gosh, yeah, I could do that. I could be useful again. I could do this thing that I loved. And Luke's apathy towards it, his lack of interest. I understand what Ellie's saying to him. Like, it doesn't matter that you're not interested. I still want to do it with you. What he hears is, I want you to do something that Jack did.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, thanks. I'm not Jack, you know? But even then I'm like, Luke, she just wants to do something with you. Please, Luke, I am begging you, throw this girl a bone, you know? So I like that.
I can't even
scene
give
too.
him that. I can't even give him that. It's just Jack. He just doesn't want to do anything. He's pretty much like, Ellie feels like she's on suicide watch, and she's just trying to give him a reason to live. He doesn't really want to live at the moment. And I can't give him the Jack thing. I'm sure it played a part, but I can't give him that.
Just get it over with then, okay?
Yeah, seriously. Like,
Mozzie is still out there, okay? She would love to run into you in the streets again this time. Just go, right? But yeah,
let Ellie go. Like, what are you doing?
right. If you don't want to share a life with her, what are you doing? What has all this been for, Luke? Why are you putting her through this?
That's been their problem the entire time, though, his refusal to let her go, because he could have just left them all at any time, done a runner, you know, changed his hair colour and made a run for it, but he's refused to do that. There's just something so selfish about Luke that, you know, he's a really fascinating character, but he's also a selfish person.
He needs you to keep bolstering him and building him up. Actually, it's funny how similar he and Salene are in that way. You know, needing somebody else to constantly, like, whenever they feel bad about something they've done, they manipulate the conversation so that the other person feels the need to be like, oh no, you didn't do anything wrong, you're not bad, da 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 da, even though clearly what you did was bad. You know, if you beat yourself, the other person feels like coming in to rescue you from your self-flagellation. They both seem to do that, you know, and Selene's was more spread out, but Luke's is very condensed, so you can just see that pattern of self-flagellation where Ellie is constantly having to try to build him up, bolster him up, and he's just, her validation isn't enough. We'll see what validation he actually wants, and it's not from Ellie.
Speaking of Salene, we get a sudden exposition dump of her backstory, told under the ruse of filling in pride.
Ryan used to always say that he'd buy her a horse one day, but I guess that day never came. God, they should have never have gotten married.
Why?
Well, only one of them was in love, and it wasn't Salene. Never works out when it's like that. She treated him pretty bad. Seems to have forgotten that, though.
So yeah, panel, we have kind of remarked on May's ability to kind of self-assess herself, but what did you make of Selene's backstory here, being told in this way to kind of aid her upcoming exit from the show?
I didn't mind it. It's not like it was important information that retcons anything that we've seen. You know, it's not like we've like, if there had been like a scene in season 1 or 2 where there were horses and like Salene was completely clueless about them, then you'd be like, okay, this is a messed up retcon because now you're telling us she has experience with them. This isn't like that. This is, you know, like Amber's sister being in a cult. It comes out of nowhere. There was no hint that this was, but it didn't hurt the story to find out about it. It did facilitate a plot point going forward. So I didn't mind finding out that Salene had this history. Again, it didn't undo anything I've already known about her. You know, it's like, oh, okay, that's actually kind of cool that that was something she was into and something that she had, and the way they expound upon it. And I didn't even mind how it was delivered. I didn't even think it was weird that May might have known this because she and Salene are friends. And this is something Salene could have easily told her at some point off camera. So I was like, okay, that works for me. I'm fine with it.
I also think, like you said, when May is talking about Ryan, it's to do with also her acknowledging that maybe she's in a similar position with Pride. So even that felt kind of useful because it's working on two ways. A, it's to remind the audience, hey, do you remember when Ryan and Salene were a thing? That's going to play out at the end of this episode. And also it leads you back into thinking about the psychology and the relationship between May and Pride. So even the dump there yes, it was quite heavy-handed, but it was there for a reason. And it wasn't just, we're now just going to give you a bunch of it was playing two roles, in my opinion.
And I know this is going to be sacrilege at this point, but I actually enjoyed learning this about Salene, and I enjoy the this plot line for her. finding a way back to who she once was. That's okay. I'm just saying, I know it's sacrilege, but I actually enjoyed it. And what gets me, I just love how everyone is so interested in watching this horse. Like they're always in the backyard all the time now, just hanging out, just staring at the horse.
I'm gonna have to slide this in here. Yeah, this sudden realization of Salene of her treatment of Ryan, but she doesn't really quite say. By the way, it's everyone else who kind of says it around her. She doesn't really acknowledge this herself. It doesn't feel genuine to me. It feels weird. I don't kind of buy it, I'm afraid.
I'm not saying I buy any massive change from Salene. I'm saying I still like this plot line of Salene coming to a place of wanting to undo, recognizing she has gone wrong somewhere, that is your first step. Just recognizing, okay, I took a really a hairpin turn somewhere. Can you go back and fix that? Is that possible? And you can only do it for yourself. And this is her starting that journey. So I'm like, good for you. That's what a person needs to do. Nobody else can do it for you. You have to recognize that you've gone wrong, and you have to have the desire to want to right it in some way. No, is it as great as if she'd actually truly acknowledged where she's gone wrong, what she's done? No, it's not as great as that, but it's something.
But she never would have.
I just want to throw a caveat, though, in there. Some of her wording felt like she wanted to go back and repair the past. And obviously, that's a negative mindset to be in, because the past is gone, and trying to recreate it, trying to replay moments that happened with people who were there is only going to have a negative outcome, because, the past is the past. You can learn from it, but you can't recreate it and you can't change it. And I still felt like there was a note with Salene that they were trying to say, yes, there is some positive there, but also Salene being Salene will get fixated, maybe possibly, on trying to recover what went wrong. So there's still a bit of a note of caution there, I think.
I agree with that, but I will add another caveat. Yes, someone like Salene likely would go, if she could time travel, she would be someone who would mess up the timeline trying to fix something. But I don't think it's inherently...
So she wasn't a bad person.
Right. I don't think it's inherently wrong, though, if you want to, say, step back in time and observe your actions of the past so that you can figure out what you did, how you got where you are, and learn from it. As you said, you can learn from the past. You can't fix the past. So I do think that there is some positive messaging in here, acknowledging that you went wrong somewhere. How do you know where you went wrong if you don't actually look at it? If you don't actually observe it. And yeah, this is heavy-handed, having her literally run off on a horse to go back in time to figure out what she did wrong and try to fix it. But I do think there is some positive messaging and telling people this is the only way to understand how you got where you got. You have to observe what you did. You have to acknowledge what you did and how it shaped where you are so that you can move forward. Okay, is it just me? In the scene where May is talking, and Laura's doing a great job, even just the subtlety in her body language as she realizes, as she's telling Pride, yeah, she wasn't very good to him. She seems to have forgotten that. The way she just side-eyes Pride and then looks down and realizes, holy crap, I'm in the same situation. Now, Laura is totally invested in this conversation. She's giving it all that she wants, but is it me or does Pride look completely bored?
Yeah.
Checked out of this conversation.
He's not listening to a single thing that she is saying. He's catching the odd thing. Which
kind of, gives more strength to the point that May's in a similar situation.
Yeah.
He's so disinterested, you're kind of like, why are you even watching Salene and the horse? You don't even seem interested in that. Wow. Why are you out here?
No, I'm not totally sure he wasn't interested in Salene and the horse. Because there's a couple of times when he looks at Salene, and I wonder if the writers were already decided that they were going to go with Pride and Salene at this point.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's just a couple bits where I'm like, I think he likes Salene.
No, I agree with you there. It's the way he's looking at her.
Yeah. And like you say, Liz, he is checked out of the conversation with May. But the way his face kind of changes when he's talking to, like when May is talking to him, he's got that expression of like you say, checked out. And then when he's looking at Salene and the horse, he's genuinely kind of captivated by it. And it's strange. Leading on from that, did anyone notice the adoring way that May was looking at Salene? When she was sat on that table and she was like, oh, she's just talking to it. And it was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, for May Salene shippers, this is a strong episode for it. Absolutely.
I'm one of those shippers, not gonna lie.
I will just say I thought it was a pretty well constructed scene. There was something a little innocent about it that I enjoyed, something reminiscent of earlier scenes with the kids just all gathered in one place. There's nothing else in their lives to entertain them. So something as simple as one of them having a horse, trying to get a horse to let them ride it, that could take up hours of your day. What else are you going to do? You know what I mean? You're just bored. So you're out there watching, fascinated with Salene taming this untamable horse, and just chatting about it. There's something about that I guess I enjoyed,
Yeah, it's fitting. It would have been a great scene if we had something like, if someone like Chloe would have been there. I could totally see her responding similar to that.
But I mean, when you go back to the horse, it's such an alien thing to see in that city as well. Like it takes you all the way back to when Chloe found the cow, and it was so sort of alien, and it was out of place, and it was from this place of nature, and that these children don't really connect with those spaces the way they probably did when they were, pre-virus. And seeing this horse just kind of, like you say, Liz, is such an oddity. It's such a something different to shake up the day, which I can imagine that it's incredibly boring in that. I mean, there's nothing to do, there's no structure, it's kind of like the early days of COVID but forever.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, I think just the one tiny thing I'm missing from like May, she can really criticize Salene. Like she goes all out on it, but she will defend her at the drop of a hat. And I know we kind of touched on this before, but I always find that kind of friendship, it's not kind of explained, if that makes sense.
Or is it? Is it later on?
Yeah.
Say this about that. I actually think you're making a good point, Lance. It's not something you see often in this show. Honesty and true acceptance among peers. May, for all her faults, is an honest person at her core. That doesn't mean she doesn't, get herself involved in deception, but even that, she's honest about it. I think it says something that she can look at Salene, see all of Selene's faults, criticize her, straight up say, oh yeah, she's a bitch. She's done some terrible things. And yet at the same be like, but I still love her. I still care about her. Like I see her for who she is, and I've accepted the crumbs in her toaster. Like we should all be so lucky to have a friend like that. That's what you're actually looking for. Someone who doesn't blind themselves to you as a person and be like, oh no, they're not. They're wonderful. They're perfect. But someone who's like, no, I know you're messed up. I know you've got problems, but I still like you. I still want to preserve my friendship with you. I still care about you. I think that says a lot about the purity of May's feelings towards Salene. She's not oblivious to Selene's faults as a person and can criticize them, but it doesn't change the fact that she cares about her. She doesn't want anything bad to happen to Salene. She wants Salene to be happy. Sure, she would love it if Salene could come clean about herself, but she does accept her for who she is.
When you put it like that, it kind of reminds me of Dal, the way Dal was to Jack.
True.
Exactly. Yeah. Dal loved Jack as he was. He was frustrated with him, called him out, criticized him, still had his back because he loved him.
Yeah, accepted him.
This is who you are, you jackass, but you're mine. You're mine.
Yeah, very true.
Like, May's not going to plot with anybody else against Salene. If she wants to get her back on Salene, she does it on her own.
Yeah.
But she's not really going to she wouldn't let someone else in the mall do it to Salene.
Nope.
You know? Like, I cannot see May scheming with someone else in the mall to do something bad to Salene. She would do that herself.
On her own,
like, it's petty revenge. I'm going to get back at her because I'm mad, but I won't let you do it. She's mine. She's my friend. You know, this is between us. You don't get to say anything about her. You don't get to do anything about her. I will criticize her. You know, if Pride criticized Salene, May would be far more ready to defend her. You know, it'd be a little self-deprecating, but she would. Like, remember when Pride was coming to see Salene in the room with the baby, and you get the sense he might have been wanting to apologize. May points out what they did to Salene. Even in that moment, she was defending Salene. She's not going to let you say anything or judge her. Only she can.
We could all have friends like that. It would be great.
It's something. It's a true blue friend. I hate you, but I love you. You're mine.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you do find someone, and for no obvious outer reason, you connect with them on a level that you haven't connected with anyone before. And it's not romantic, it is friendship. And yeah, that just seems to have been what's happened with both of them, because they both go out for each other. They both support each other.
May is just usually more honest. Like, where Salene would never criticize May out loud. She never does. She never criticizes May, even when she ought to, when she rightfully should. She never criticizes her. May is definitely just a more honest person. She can criticize Salene and still love her.
Yeah, but that's just a big difference between May and Salene.
Yeah, they're just different people. Creepily, May might be one of the most honest people in the show. That's crazy.
Well, it's interesting that May and KC, who were also like they're shown as we're told that they're duplicitous, and we see some duplicitous behavior, but I think they, like you say, I think they're two of the most honest characters, especially May. I mean, she is honest, I would say, to a fault sometimes when she tells the truth to people, especially Salene. Like when with that whole Ryan situation, she's like, look, he's not a bad guy. You could do a lot worse, you know. If I had someone like Ryan, I would be happy. You know, it would be enough for me.
It's literally not until, I think, season 5 that May straight out starts lying about her behavior.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, from seasons 2 to 4, like, if she betrays you, she does not deny it. If you call her out for having betrayed you or doing something wrong, she has an excuse, but she doesn't say, I didn't do that. You know what I mean? She's like, yeah, I did it, but this is why. You know what I mean? She was always so honest about her behavior. Even if she was completely unapologetic about her behavior, she was honest. It's not till season 5 and the Pride stuff that she starts straight up lying to people's faces about stuff. Like, no, he didn't say anything when he died, or I didn't betray you guys to Meg. I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? That's when she actually starts genuinely lying. You know, when like she just wasn't, like, she was always very honest. Then again, season 5 is a fever dream, so you know, that is just an acid trip of a season. So we're just here for the ride.
It's bonus material.
That's exactly. It's a what if fan fiction. Nuts. Fun, don't get me wrong. Totally fun. Shut your brain off, grab some popcorn and a beer and have fun. But whew, nonsensical.
But no, I mean, we say fun now. But when we get there, will we discover that it's not as fun as we remembered?
When we finish season 4, I'm going to be like, let's bring on the party of season 5!
Okay, panel, let's move on to Bray.
Don't be sorry. I don't mean to be mysterious.
But you are.
I left a few troubles behind.
And you're going back to them anyway?
I don't know. Maybe it's time I moved on.
So, I mean, let's start with Bray. I mean, I understand in the heat of the moment, that reaction to the ransom note, him believing that you will never see them again. But now that, I mean, it's the day after he's had time to reflect and see what's going on in the cold light of day. He's completely checked out. He's given up on ever seeing Amber, Trudy, and his child again. And that rubs me up the wrong way. Let's start with that. What are your thoughts on that?
Amber who? No, seriously, it's so obnoxious to see. It's like he's gotten over losing Amber and his baby as quickly this time as he was the last time that he thought he'd lost Amber forever.
And it's even worse because he doesn't even know that they are dead. He doesn't even know where they are. He doesn't know what even happens. And he's just given up. He's like, yeah, that's it. They're gone then.
Yes, exactly. At least the first time around,
he knew like something that, yeah.
He had reason to believe that Amber was actually dead. But, I mean, him not carrying that and giving up on ever seeing Trudy again, yeah, sure. We know. You don't care about that girl. But Amber and the baby, it's... Oh.
Just from a note, that's it? You've given up on your whole family?
I want to throw in as well, when has he ever been free as the wind? Because he went from being someone who went to school and lived with his parents, and I don't know about you, but as a teenager, I was not free as the wind, to looking after Trudy when she was expecting a baby, to then living in the mall. Like, when was this freedom happening?
Hey, everyone else shackled him down, but he was free in his mind.
He was free when he was captain of the basketball team.
Really? I mean, is that the freedom he's talking about? Because he still would have had to have gone home and, I don't know, put the bins out on a Thursday, you know?
I'm going to have to swoop in and defend Bray.
Oh, no. Do you have to?
Yeah, Maggie ain't here. Someone has to.
In the interest of fairness, yes, I do. Okay.
It's the amount of times he's been hit on the head, right?
No, that's not good. That's not a good excuse. No.
I've never used his concussions as an excuse.
No, that would be a low blow. You'd never use his concussion.
Okay. The free of the bird thing, I think that may just be a reflection on the freedom he felt when he was a kid with parents who handled the responsibilities of life. Mm-hmm. He had the freedom to think about who he was going to be. He had a whole life ahead of him. You know, yeah, he cared about his little brother, but it's not like he was responsible for keeping a roof over his brother's head or keeping his brother in line, or he was relatively free, you know, and that's what he wanted. He wanted the freedom to just go and do the things he'd like to do. As he stated, his brother and his parents were always together. They were a clique as a family, and Bray was just doing his own thing. He clearly wasn't very tied down with friends. Yeah, he had a sport he enjoyed, but we never see him with the basketball team or his teammates. I think for Bray, that's what he's reflecting on. I used to be someone who was free, insular, you know, an introvert. I did my own thing. I didn't need anybody, and I didn't have anyone pulling on me and demanding anything of me. And then the virus happened, and that's when that all changed. That's all he's had since the virus came. People clawing on him and begging him and needing him, you know, and he's never been able to just leave any of that behind. That sense of responsibility. So that's probably what he's talking about. I used to be a free person. That's what I longed for. That's what's in me. And that all changed when the world went tits up, and I've never been able to regain that freedom because there's always somebody pawing at you, needing you, which I want to say, Moon, if you want to turn Bray off, just become needy. Mm-hmm. This guy literally just told you, I was free as a bird once. I'd love to recapture that. And she says, please take me away from this place. I'm desperate. And I really need some. I could never do it alone. Bray, he went soft immediately. He was like, nope, never, no. What, did you not hear me, woman? I don't want people needing me anymore.
That's how she got him to leave.
She was just like, I so need somebody to need. Please take me away. He was like, no. You stop being attractive immediately, okay? I'm just saying, Moon. Bad move. Right?
I've done the Trudy thing before.
Salene tried it with him. He was like, ow, I'm out. Okay, as for his depression, all right, I guess I relate because I have been here. Depression is an ugly beast, and it doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to matter that we can see that there's clearly still hope. Even if we didn't know Trudy and Amber were alive, even if we'd never seen them in the room, even if we didn't know that Ned had taken them, even if we didn't know all that, we would still think there's hope. We still don't know where they are. And we obviously know that, the note wasn't from the real kidney. Like, even with all that, we can still see outside of the problem, outside of the box. But when you're in the box of depression, you can't. Remember Trudy walking away from her daughter? Like, she was so in such a dark place that she was willing to walk away from the last tie she had to her own family, the only person in the world that was hers. She couldn't do it. It was so dark for her, and we understood it. She just needed a little time, to reflect, to sleep, to think clearly, and then she was like, oh my gosh, I do want to be this person. I feel that Bray in this box cannot see the obvious things that we can. I know that I went through it when my son was a baby. My marriage immediately became not a great one. And I was obviously suffering from postpartum depression. I didn't know that, though. And I almost walked away from my marriage and my child because I was so darkly depressed. I thought about taking my baby and running away. And then I was like, how can I support him? I don't have any education. I don't have any money, and I won't be able to take care of him. I can't. I thought I couldn't go back home. Now, obviously, outside the box, there were unlimited options I could have done. My parents would have definitely taken me home. They would definitely be like, baby, come home. You know what I mean? But in the box, I could not imagine that was an option for me. I really did believe, no, they got their hands full. They don't want to deal with me anymore. If I can't take care of him, maybe I should just go. And I did think that. I really thought of just leaving my own child because I didn't want to be with his father anymore. That's messed up. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But I did think that. So I can't really judge Bray for thinking it's all over, not being able to see what we can clearly see are his options, and that all hope is not lost. Because when you're in the eye of the storm, you just can't. And again, it's not logical, and it doesn't have to make sense. You know what I mean? So I can't really get on the guy.
You're making good points about your experience, but I just don't think they've done a good enough job with Bray, for me personally, to reflect that. It's
fair.
Just not coming across here.
Totally fair.
But I completely get what you're saying.
Can I ask, do you think it would have been better if we hadn't had the Moon character? Maybe if it had just been Bray and Pony Joe and there hadn't been Moon there. Would that have worked for you better, Lance?
On his depression? Or on...
It's just this whole, how this is playing out and the depression and everything.
I mean, the whole Moon angle doesn't even need to be there. That's that whole...
I think it might have worked better without yet another girl there who... wants to be an Amber replacement.
I mean, yeah, and in the end of it, he runs back to them all because of her. I mean, it doesn't even make sense to me personally, but...
I agree with Lance there. I agree. The way this plays out, it almost looked like Bray was ready to run away from everything, saw no hope, and then this girl was like, here, take me on, carry my baggage and save me, and that's what made Bray run again. And I think it would have been far more meaningful if just a few days spent without anybody making any demands of him, and he had a chance to just think, just think. And especially like that nice talk with him and Pony Joe about the pressures of being leaders, because I think that works way better if you leave Moon out of the equation, making Pony Joe a relatable character, a reflection of, what Bray is going through. Someone who has to be harsh at times. You see the pressure get to him and he's yelling at his tribe. And then it's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to be that guy. I'm trying to keep these people alive. And everyone's looking to me for the answers. I think that moment would have had much more poignancy of being, what gets Bray to come out and be like, I do want to give up, but I won't. You know what I mean? Because that's what we do. We're leaders. You know what I mean? We got to keep the hope. We got to keep our people alive. We got to be the one they look to. I do think maybe Moon does shadow his journey here, and she's only there for drama anyway. Like, did anybody really believe he was going to run off with this girl? Like, come on, like, give me a break. Like, she's unnecessary. I think it would have worked better if there was no potential love interest for him to run away with. And it was just him getting his head back on straight after almost dying, because let's face it, Maz left him for dead, and needing to go through the grief cycle again, and then finally be like, okay, I'm going to go back and figure this out. But hope dies for everybody at some point. And this could have been the story of his hope being rekindled again because he just needed freaking peace.
Yeah.
Just a peace.
Yeah.
But instead, it just looks like Moon scared him off. He was like, never mind.
Well, she did.
She did. It was just weird that then he ran back to all his problems. It's like
he was like, "That's insulting. That's so insulting." Moon, that's how bad he didn't want you. He went back to all the chaos that he was running from.
That is actually an insult. Yeah.
She just reminded him of other needy girls.
He's like, never mind. I have something to salvage. You bring nothing to my life.
But yeah, you're right. I think I would have taken this a lot better if it was just Pony Joe and him and just reflecting on everything.
I'm not.
Because I do like that part.
Moon could have worked. Her dialogue specifically, Moon is painted as a young woman desperate to be rescued. And it could have been, if a little tweaking of the dialogue and maybe another conversation for Bray could have made it like she represents like Amber, his niece, his sister, Trudy, who are people who require rescuing. Everybody requires some rescuing.
Yes.
And there's only a few of us out there who can do the rescuing. Like he can't rescue Moon. Sorry. I have my own damsels in distress who need me. Like it could have been useful that's what she reminds him of, that there are people who require him to save them from their situation. Sorry, Moon, you're on your own. Maybe another knight in shining armor will show up, but I've got my own fairy tale to get back to. I have people who need me. And they could have done something with it. But
you're right. Actually, you are right. I think if they had just gotten rid of that stupid love angle and just had him focus on, okay, there are people who actually still need me and I can fight for them, that would have worked.
Do you think as well that it might have helped instead of him, that it might have actually helped for us to remind us of the leader he was, that actually instead of that kiss, he says to her, you can actually do this. You can save yourself. You don't need me to save you. If you want to do this, do it. Instead of because let's be honest, right? The whole Moon Pony Joe thing. I know I always put my misogyny hat on, but this feels like some of the worst writing in the tribe when it comes to misogyny. And it's just, for me, I find it uncomfortable to watch. I thought the message that was in it was really unhealthy for young people to see. And I would have liked for Bray to turn around and basically give her a pep talk. Say, listen, you can do this. If you want to do this, you can. Like remembering Amber and all of the pep talks that she gave him, and maybe taking some of the lines that Amber had said to him in season 1 and feeding them back to Moon. And that's the reason why he goes back, because he remembers Amber. He remembers the tribe. And rather than looking at it as like, I miss this person so much, I can't do anything. He's like, actually, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get my together and I'm gonna be that knight, and you can be that too, but you can be it for yourself, Moon. You don't need anybody to protect you. You can look after yourself.
Yeah, I think that would have worked, because it's the difference is Moon is in a position she could, where his girlfriend and his sister-in-law are imprisoned somewhere. They can't rescue themselves. They do need someone to swoop in to save them. But Moon, you could do it. You can do it on your own, baby girl.
Yeah, I didn't mean it in that way where I was saying like Amber and Trudy can rescue themselves.
No. I was saying you're right. You're right. Like that could have been a moment for him to realize your situations are similar, but Moon, you can do this for you. Yeah. They do need me. You know what I mean? Like they actually do need me to rescue. If anyone needs to be rescued, it is them. I need to figure this out. But you could totally do this on your own. You know what I mean? Like it could have been a great transition to him making his decision to leave and go back, just that wake up call. Like I just needed a few days, to almost die and drown my sorrows. Like I needed that. And now I'm well rested. Nobody's asked anything of me except Moon, and like it helped me get my head on straight. Like this all could have worked much better. Yeah. I don't hate it. I'll just say I don't hate it, but it could have been better. Absolutely.
I mean, instead of Pony Joe burning the note in the fire, you could have had an ending where he actually goes to give it to Moon and she's gone.
Ooh,
that would have been fun.
What a
That would be
message.
better.
Instead of that awful shot of her sitting there and you think she's still trapped with these people, or she's clearly unhappy with a borderline abusive relationship with Pony Joe.
Yeah.
And it just looks like she's resigned to this life now because Bray didn't rescue her from it. If she was gone, like if Pony Joe, it would have been a great moment for Pony to give her the note, to go to give it to her. Like, he doesn't want to. He thinks about throwing it in the fire. But then, nope, I'm going to just face facts. She doesn't want me. I don't know what he has to say to her, but I'm going to give it to her. And she's gone. Wow, that would have been powerful.
Agreed.
Damn, that could have been so great. What a message.
Yeah, it would have been a great way to leave it, and it would have been a great way for us to
hate
see
this
Bray.
scene. You guys ruined it for me. I liked it, and now I'm like, this is garbage.
See, I hated it from the start. Like, my trigger point is anytime I see a man being physically or mentally domineering to a woman, and like that hit all my trigger points with this. But like I say, there was ways to rescue it. Give her agency, have Bray give her that agency, have him repeat words that he's heard Amber say to him, go all the way back into their relationship in season 5, have, as he's saying it, have the moments play through of Amber actually saying this to Bray and then Bray saying this to Moon. And just remind us, he's coming back in for round 2. He's ready. He's mentally preparing himself to come back in, to get her back, to save his tribe. He's coming back. And the takeaway for Moon is actually, I can do this, Yeah. And like you say, Pony Joe showing himself to have had some growth. But just because he's got a bit of growth doesn't mean he deserves to win the girl. And then you've got fan fiction writers who can come out and say, like, later on they meet each other and she's the head of this tribe and he's got his, and then they get together, and that they're equals, instead of it being what it is, which is just such a negative message to send to young children, young people. You need a man to save you. B, if a man can be moody and kind of push you into having sex with him, which is kind of what's going on with Pony Joe. He wants to make her his woman and she doesn't want it, so he's just giving her the cold shoulder or physically roughing her up. And, just give in, it will be so much easier. I mean, come on, like, this was it wasn't like, we're looking at like 20 years ago, but my god, it was only 20 years ago. The sorts of things that they're talking about is like, that's the sort of things you'd have got in the 40s, not in the 2000s. It's so negative.
You guys killed it for me, but you know what, I'm glad you did, but damn it. I was watching it today going, man, these scenes, I love these scenes. Now I'm like, this is garbage. This is crap. What could have been, what they could have done with this.
This is what I'm here for. I want deputies recruited from all the tribes. I want to set up a law enforcement agency that everybody respects. So come on! Who's man enough to join?
What are you paying?
I haven't thought about that. What have we got?
Not much.
Come on, Judge, tell us what the pay is.
There's gotta be something.
What? I mean, the Chosen have cleaned everybody out. Right now, the mall rats are among one of the poorest tribes in the whole city.
I know. I mean, let's start with the money. Okay, thinking back to Series 2, the Morats struggling to get even a simple trading system up and running. Like, what are your thoughts on money?
Better idea than the tokens.
Yeah.
Like a currency for the whole city. That's one of our biggest complaints about the tokens in the mall.
Yeah.
Is that they're so limited. What good are these tokens for you unless if you can't use them anywhere but the mall? We all agree that was a really dumb system they had in place and valueless to anybody. So an actual currency that would be valuable to everyone everywhere, that's a better idea.
I liked Ellie's note of caution, though, about, are we just opening another can of worms with bringing money back in? Because they're a moneyless society. And, I mean, they seem to be managing this far without money. And money just does bring a whole load of other issues along with it. And I liked that was also a message in the mix.
Like they're a society without money because people are actually able to trade what they think is valuable.
Yeah.
Whatever they think is actually valuable, that's what they trade, whether it's labor or something sentimental or time, a chore, whatever. I do think it's works better for their world to do that. A smart thing Lex could have asked when they were like, what's the pay? Be like, well, what do you think is a fair pay for this kind of job? And you can find out what people think is valuable for their time to do this. But I can't like say it doesn't make sense for money to come back up. And currency is always a part of civilization's building. And, you know, having a flat currency, that's where all civilizations go. You know, the barter system only lasts so long, and it only lasts in small societies. When you want to grow, you definitely need to up your game when it comes to currency. So it makes sense, but I prefer them as a society with no currency, or at least the currency being about what each person deems as valuable.
Yeah.
In the big term, yeah, I agree with you. But in this society we've seen here, I don't see how it doesn't feel a natural progression at this point. Like they're trading all over the city, not just back in the mall when they were used to be trading there. Like you said, what people value and think is worth it. And I just can't see this progression to money. I don't even think it makes sense for Ebony to suggest it as well. To me, it doesn't make sense, that progression.
It kind of does now. Okay, just follow me. It kind of does to me because we know in hindsight what Ebony's actually building towards. She wants to build her throne, and of course she wants to be the most powerful. The idea of money makes her the richest. She's always been interested in that. Introducing money in a place where she gets to control the currency, she gets to control the person doing the currency, guarantees that she will be the richest. We saw her doing the same thing in season 2. You know, even though what their currency was the antidote, she even spoke, we're the richest tribe in the city. You know what I mean? We're just sitting on the crown jewels up here, bubbling away. Like, so it does make sense for Ebony to be thinking in those terms. But yeah, I just know that it's going to fail because these guys will not be able to execute it. Yeah. Like, that's for me. That's where I'm like, you guys are going to fail at this. But
from her point of view at this point in time, when the mole rats are, as they say, one of the poorest tribes in the city, introducing money this way, it's a smart move for her to do. You know, she got nothing, and this is her way of ensuring she has something. So for personal gain.
Question I have: how are they the poorest tribe? Not only were they in the chosen headquarters, and we saw that plenty of rooms were roped off with chosen goods. Okay, we literally saw the kids trading for chosen goods while in captivity. All the foods and stuff from the farm were being brought back to the mall. How are you the poorest tribe in the city?
Are they trying to say no kickbacks? Is that what they're trying to say? Are they trying to say that they distributed the wealth? It doesn't make sense because they haven't explained it to us.
No, it's because they let all the food go to waste for the banquet.
But that couldn't have been the only thing that they had, though, was just rooms and rooms full of food.
They literally have Luke. They have Luke telling them where the chosen stores are, where things were kept. You're telling me you didn't go check these out, that other people were able to ransack them before you got there? The chosen used Alice's farm, and somehow it's completely abandoned and gone to crap. Like, how did this happen in such a short amount of time? You guys had the upper hand. I don't know how you wasted it in a week to the point we have nothing. We don't have anything. Are you serious? Nothing of value here.
Bringing up the Chosen, I think it's kind of interesting that the Chosen didn't try and reintroduce money, actually. Because one of the first things that often happens, in the past was that an invading force would sort of remint coins to have their faces on them. And the money would then change to be the money it wasn't about how much money they had, it was about power. Your face is literally on this coin. It's another symbol that you own everything that you see. And I think it's interesting that they never tried to introduce money, because it feels like a step that the Guardian might have done in one of his more lucid moments, because he was such a control freak.
Saw money as a way for individuals to gain power outside of the system. And they didn't want anybody to be able to gain power outside of their system.
But you're controlling the distribute. I mean, the fact that money works at all is because you're controlling the distribution. So they would have been making how much money, like they would have literally been making the money. So unless somebody else sets up a mint in the city, which I don't think any of these kids are going to do, you literally can control how much, where it goes, who has access to it, and how much it's worth at any given time.
Yeah, but you can't control people who are smart about getting money. You can't. Okay, let's put it this way. Once upon a time, fashion was controlled by money. Okay, only people with money could afford the best dyes, best materials, and so they had the stuff. But then people, lower class people, started being able to make money. They just got smart. They started being able to make money. And all of a sudden you have a bunch of merchants who could afford the same silks and the dyes and the satin and can wear stuff that even royals are wearing. So what did they do? They literally made laws saying if you weren't a nobleman or a royalty, you couldn't wear certain colors or certain fabrics because they couldn't control that people will make money. Like, even though they're the ones controlling the money, you can't control people making it, following your system to get rich, you know?
Well, you kind of want them to keep having money because you want to tax that money back. So,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I can understand why the Guardian wouldn't be interested in any kind of system he couldn't control. And money is one that would quickly get away from him.
And you have to remember, it only has a value because the majority have placed a value on it. Like, if they don't do that, that's it. It's meaningless.
That's where this kind of falls down, isn't it? Because if, when they distribute this, if nobody's taking it, then again, it's like the tokens in the mall. But like you said, Liz, it makes more sense because it's going to be wider distribution. It's not just going to be one location. It's going to be multiple locations.
Yeah.
No, and you can earn it, not just trade for it.
Yeah.
And even then, they botched this. They botched the execution of this so bad. It's ridiculous.
I mean, of course they do. It's season 3. What do you expect? At this point, right, at this point, do you actually think this is going to go well? Do you think they're going to be able to, the writers are going to be able to push through with this idea? I love it.
Maybe it's because it's the accumulative effect. Maybe it's because they've rushed the kind of trading aspect. Now they're rushing money, and then they're going to rush technology. It's just because it's all together thrown at me. Maybe that's why I hate it so much. It's just too much thrown to rebuild the world.
Season 3 has all the ideas. Every idea. It's everything. And everything is being thrown at us and not having a chance to sit with us and gracefully evolve in their world. So yeah, you're just like, what the heck? How many plots are you trying to squeeze into the last 10 episodes?
All of them.
Okay, now, Pride agreed to be Lex's deputy. Lex convinced him to do it so that he could get information about where Amber is, and, also Trudy. But I'm still trying to figure out how that works. We don't see him questioning anything except in the mall. He only ever questions people who live in the mall. He doesn't question people on the streets. He doesn't use them to try to get information about where they might be. He treats the whole thing like a joke. So you're like, why are you even here, Pride? You didn't need to be Lex's deputy to find out information to find the woman you love and your possible child. Like, you didn't need him for this. So did they just not have anything for Pride to do once they decided to keep him around?
Lex just didn't want to be on his own out there.
No, I get Lex asking him. I'm saying from Pride's perspective, if he's not going to use this position, like, it just feels like the writers needed something for Pride to do since they insisted on keeping him around.
Yeah, because it's clear they don't have any. They don't know where they're going with Pride.
They know they want him there for May. They want him there for the May love story, and they want him to cause friction between Bray. But other than that, they have no idea what to do with him. Couple fun things about this part of the show episode. I loved Tai Sam being completely checked out and on autoplay when her husband's like, "How do I look?" She's like, "Yeah, you look great, babe. You're gonna be awesome. You're the right guy for the job." It just made me laugh. Like, it's some hobby he has that she's completely disinterested in. She's just glad that something's keeping him busy and keeping him out of trouble and that they're not fighting. But she really doesn't give a crap about this Law and Order stuff. Like, nope. I'm supporting you. I love you, baby. You're gonna be great for this job. She seriously doesn't care. And then I did like the moment where all the kids were kind of poking fun at him when he debuts himself as the big bad sheriff. And again, that was very reminiscent of season 1. And I thought that was quite adorable. You did Lex wrong in this outfit. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I mean, granted, he's always looked good, so they were like, it's your turn to be a hot mess.
I love that he thought he looked so cool.
He looks so cool. Like, oh my gosh.
He's like that little 4-year-old who puts on a sheriff's hat and a star and thinks he's all that.
He's got some cosplay in him, hasn't he? Lex has got cosplay in his soul.
Yeah, but he's done so much better cosplay than this.
That's true. That's true. But he loves it. He has a flair for this.
And I love that about him. But this, I'm sorry, Lex, it's ugly, okay? You're way more stylish than this. I don't know what happened. Like, this is awful.
Sandra would not have stood for this.
Sandra would never she wouldn't have let him leave the mall looking like that. She'd have said, take that off immediately, and not in a sexy way.
She would have burned
Take it off.
You've married 2 very stylish women. You cannot think this looks good, Lex.
True, yeah.
Oh, Ned, it's beautiful. Where did you get it?
It doesn't matter. I want you to understand. I mean what I say, Alice. Things are going to work out for us.
Did anyone genuinely enjoy that running around between Alice and Ned?
No.
Did anyone enjoy it?
Had it been anyone else, probably, but not these 2.
No. Look, I will not have that done to Alice, because I would love to see her run around in a sexy way, okay? But not with Ned. Alice with anyone else, but not with Ned.
The scene and the concept of the scene is not bad. It's bad because of the terrible job they have done selling Alice and Ned on us. That's why it's not a great scene. What they're doing isn't bad at all. Okay? Playing tag and being playful with your partner is adorable and fun. And it's like, that's how you keep a relationship alive. You know, they come in the door and there's just a squirt gun waiting for them with a note that says, if you first fun to get the best shot makes dinner. You know what I mean? Like, that is fun. That's awesome stuff to do with the person you love. It's just that we aren't sold on Ned and Alice. We aren't sold on this love story. So we're just like, stop trying to shove this down our throats. It's Bray and Danny all over again. And even Bray and Danny was done better. So like,
ooh, yeah,
it's hard to enjoy watching this and just like, Alice, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Ned, you piece of crap. But the scene, the idea, the concept, fine. But it doesn't work because you failed at selling this to us.
This scene would have been fine if I imagine Ryan instead of Ned. That's how I cope with scenes like this.
Literally anyone else.
Or just anyone else.
No, because I agree. Alice running around being happy. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's just the person on the other end of it.
Doing it with. It's cringe. Stop trying to make fetch happen, you know?
Yeah, they ruined it, you know? And there's no time to fix it because, again, you decided to squeeze everything into the last 20 episodes of season 3. You know, every idea, even though there were 20 episodes with no ideas, nothing was really happening. And then suddenly every idea came into the writing room and it's all being squished in. And you've tried to fast track this love story and it's not working. It's not working. At least Danny showed up at the literal first episode of season 2. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, we don't have time. So we have got to squeeze every moment we have to try and sell Danny and Bray. And they at least tried to do it.
They did, yeah.
They used every second they had to sell Bray and Danny, you know?
Yeah.
They didn't do that with Ned and Alice.
And I mean, when you compare the two, Bray and Danny have got a more compelling relationship.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, because at least there's respect there. I mean, Bray kind of respects Danny, and Danny definitely respects Bray. Ned treats Alice like she's a moron, and Alice just worships at the temple of Ned. It's just, I would say, since I've been doing these with you guys, I think this is the worst I've ever seen Alice be. Like, the worst. Like, she is dialed down now so far, I think she might have had a lobotomy. That's how bad this is.
Yeah, I agree. With Bray and Danny, Okay. They didn't have to change who Bray is to make him be in love with Danny. Okay. You understood what they saw in each other. You didn't have to agree with it. You didn't have to like it, but you at least like, I get what they see in each other. I get what they like about each other, you know? And here Ned is a psychopath and Alice has to be dumbed down so much that she's literally under his boot for this to make any kind of sense.
It's horrific. It's another terrible message in an episode that has so much misogyny. It's just another terrible message. I think the worst thing is when Ned and Ebony are being really, really suspicious, and then they sort of do this pan back, and you can see Alice literally in the corner in his room, like putting something on the bed, and you're like, the Alice of old would have been fishy around this. She'd have been like, why are you two huddled in corners talking all the time? And it would have just, and then went with the food. She would have gotten suspicious. But there's none of that here. And it's just so, like, oh God, it's the levels of cringe.
I would have loved it if Ned actually was a smooth talker with Alice. If Ned came off as a super nice guy, wouldn't that be amazing? If that's how Ned was introduced, as just a really cool, even-keeled guy, didn't cause any trouble with anybody, wasn't hateable, anything like that. Might have been a little annoying. Like he and Alice might have like kind of brushed each other the wrong way a little bit because he was indifferent to helping out or something, but not an outright jerk. But he's just kind of there. Like, I don't care. I'm indifferent to our imprisonment, blah, blah, blah. But really smooth with it. Only for that guy to be the one who kidnaps Amber and Trudy. That would have been fantastic. This beautiful face, this beautiful facade, who says all the right things to Alice, and yet knowing what he's capable of, what he's been doing, what he's done, what he's lying to her about. Wow, that would have been freaking awesome. You know, almost scary in a way. You know what I mean?
It's like, I want to go on record and say it's not because of how Bevan looks, because I think a lot of people might listen to this and think, oh well, it's because he's plus side and he's not classically attractive like a lot of the other guys. But that's not my problem with him. My problem with him is his character. And I think you make a great argument for if you had cleaned up his character but given him more to do, because watching him now that he is so desperate to get out of this trap that he is in, he actually sometimes shows that he's got a quality that's really interesting as an actor, and he has that ability, and he's got some chemistry with Vanessa Stacey. And you just think, imagine, like you say, if he had been more straight down the line, if we had been cheering for them the whole time, and then it's revealed that it is him, he is the villain.
Yeah.
I mean by a beautiful package, you know what I mean? Like if he'd been able to sell that personality of being somebody that we would be like, ooh, look at him and Alice, you know, enemies to lovers and stuff like that. And then we're blindsided by, oh my gosh, he kidnapped Amber and Trudy. Like, you know, like we should feel conflict over that and heartbroken over it. Like when Snape kills Dumbledore, you should be like, what? No, I wanted to believe in you. You know what I mean? But they just wasted it. So yeah, a scene with them frolicking could have been adorable, but instead it's like, stop trying to sell me on this love story. Stop it. Just give it up.
If they went the way you suggested, Liz, this frolicking would have been sad because we know what he's done and she doesn't. And we're seeing him play her, but also he loves her. That's the other side of this. He is genuinely in love with her, and yet he's done this terrible thing and she's just all in. So, I mean, as you suggested, your notes for his character would have been really interesting. And he would have made him so interesting, and their relationship would have been... But again, it's like Moon and Pony Joe. It's such a waste.
Oh, what kind of messages are we supposed to be taking away from the show now? There was a time when the messages were really good. And even as adults, we were like, that's a good message. And now it's like, I don't know what you're telling the youth, but abandon hope, all who enter here.
Well, there's definitely an emphasis on you maybe... no, I'm going to say it. There's an emphasis on women not being able to cope without men, the way Moon is. And also, Alice loses her power because she's with Ned. And you know, it's like...
It's literally the antithesis of how this show started.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
I don't understand. And like, even down to Amber and Trudy being damsels in distress. you know, Amber especially. I mean, sad thing to say, you know, Trudy has been kidnapped 4,000 times now.
Yeah.
She knows the role that she has to play. She probably got her own kidnap kit at this point, let's be honest. But I think there's something, like, for Amber to be reduced as well, it just feels like the message here is you're either duplicitous, like Ebony, or you're weak. And it's just so it's like so negative. I know you could flip it around and say, yeah, well, Bray is in his feelings and he's lost his power, but Bray's fluctuated like this. He was kind of like this at the start of season 2 when he wasn't sure if he was going to come back. Then he went off to sea. Then he met Danny and he came back, and Trudy gave him that amazing pep talk, and you know, but we have seen him fluctuate like this before. But these other characters, these female characters like Alice, we have never seen her act like this. This is lobotomy city, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, oh God, you know?
It's nothing even wrong with a damsel in distress. Everybody needs to be rescued sometimes. It just used to be really equal opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, even Dal has been a damsel in distress. You know what I mean? Like, in the earlier seasons, everybody could be a damsel. Didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how you identified. Everybody needs to be saved at some point in time. It was the way they portrayed these characters as fighting for it. You know, like, no matter what. Even Ebony was kind of a damsel in distress. Bray had to rescue her. We don't look at her as a damsel because they did something with it. It didn't weaken her character. You know, it wasn't a negative connotation on her that she needed to be rescued. You know, Bray has been a damsel in distress. Everybody has that moment, but now the message is just everybody is pathetic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in season 1, when Tribe Circus were in the mall, they were all damsels in distress, and the person who rescued them was KC, a child. Rescued Bray, he rescued Ryan, he rescued Lex, he rescued everyone, and he saved Sandra, you know. And yeah, you're so right, like, all of them have had this moment, but in this season it feels pronounced, and it feels, and this will be going on. We will see this come up again. We will see this reduction down of female characters from this point on. Because if you think about what's coming down the line, if you think, I mean, one of my favourite characters, Ruby, you know, my God, do they really do a number on her?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's from where we were with, I mean, like, yeah, nobody, the problem with Danny, but the thing about Danny was that she had goals, she had drive. Yes, she had moments, but everybody has moments. But the thing is, like, there wasn't the reduction of the female characters in the past that we are seeing now. They're kind of all being reduced down to component parts. Like, you can't survive without somebody there protecting you who's probably a man. Now that you're with a man, you don't need to worry about things that you were worried about before, because your whole soul should be around following him around because he's going to take you on a picnic. You know, it's just like, oh my God.
I totally agree with you that there's definitely a lot more misogyny going on, but I have to say, it really isn't just happening to the female characters. Every character has been reduced down to their bare minimum.
Yeah.
You know, the guys are treated the same way, the same baseline of what they'd be interested in, what they'd be fulfilled in, what motivates them. There is just no complexity in any of these people anymore. You know, I mean, reductive is the word of the day for what we're dealing with and what we're going to be dealing with till the end. With a few rare exceptions, you'll have a moment where, wow, this actually deserves the thought that we put into it every week, you know, but everybody suffers from it. Everybody is watered down to, apparently human beings are this simplistic and they only fit in one kind of box, and that's all they can ever be. And there's just no duality of emotion. So it's not just the women, but it's more noticeable because the tribe had been so good at their egalitarian treatment of people as a whole that we noticed how well the young females stood out. And now we're noticing that they're not, but they are not the only ones who are suffering from this.
That brings us to our final thoughts of the episode.
It's Salene. She's taken him. Taken him? Where? To find an old friend.
So yeah, what are your thoughts about Selene's departure from the show?
was one of the better reasons for someone to leave and be missing for a little while. Someone who is trying to right the wrongs in their lives, someone acknowledging that they've gone wrong and being proactive about trying to do something about it. Again, I'm not saying that she can fix what went wrong. Just the fact that Salene, of all people, acknowledges, I handled things wrong. I would like to make them right. I thought that was a nice exit for her. I was like, good, go find who you are, sweetheart. You lost so much of yourself to the point you don't know who you are anymore. You don't recognize who you see in the mirror. Take a step back. Go find that girl again. And if, you know, part of that journey is making things right with Ryan, if you could possibly find him, go do that. You know, like, I was proud of her for leaving on her own. She didn't talk to anybody about it. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't ask for companionship. She didn't ask for help. She made that decision on her own. Kudos to you, Salene. You have never done this. I'm very proud of you.
I'd also say that she left even though Bray had come back, which for Salene is huge.
It is. And, you know, other than just being happy that Salene is actually going to try and find Ryan, and at this point in time I was still hopeful that she would, because we've seen people come back after longer. I was also happy that the first thing Bray did when he got there was actually remember to tell Salene that the horse traders had seen Ryan and not just, you know, be full of his own problems.
No, it felt like a really nice moment between them. And yeah, I agree. Did anyone else find it really insulting the way Pony Joe described Ryan?
Yeah, I did. I was very upset. That's my boyfriend you're talking about right there.
I was like, right, stop doing that, please.
Stop doing that.
It's just,
there's so many ways you could describe him. And the fact that Bray was like, oh, it must be Ryan he's talking about. Shut up! Oh, you guys make me so mad.
It's so frustrating. I find Ryan's treatment disgusting by the writers because, you know, they kind of make it sound as if he's mentally impaired, and he isn't. Like, he's not. Like,
a chill guy, man.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I'm not going to say it, I'm going to say it. There's also an implicit, I think, idea that, oh, he's larger, so he must be a little bit thick, you know? And it's like, oh my God. Because they do it with Ned as well. And, you know, just so uncomfortable.
I really like this moment for Salene. I love Casey, and I want credit. I've been calling this since season 1 when no one believed me that Casey was the freaking MVP of this damn show. I've been saying it since then. He is my baby. I love him. Just his joy at seeing Salene in this moment. He's so happy for her. You know, like even him saying, like, this is a bet that I don't mind losing. And then when she finally gets on that horse and he's just like, she did it. And his smile. He's
smiling, yeah.
He is genuinely happy for her and Apollo. You know what I mean? Like, he's happy for his friend. He loves his friends. He loves his family. He doesn't care what he bet, what he's going to lose. I'm just like, Casey, I freaking love you so much.
It was adorable.
And honestly, after everything that Salene has been through, no matter how much of that she did to herself, it's just nice to see her be able to leave this way for now.
Yeah, it's definitely Salene getting her groove back.
She went through hell in season 3. Like, I will blame her for everything she did to herself in season 2. She totally did that to herself. But most of season 3, a lot of it was out of her control, you know, and she was punished. That's what the writers often do with characters. She did get punished big time for how she treated Ryan, for what she put him through. You know, all of her season 2 behavior came back to bite her in the butt in season 3. And so I was happy for her to reach this point and see genuine joy on her face and say, I was like, go get some of yourself back, Salene, because I don't know if you ever knew who you really were, baby girl. Your mother ripped that from you. I don't know what happened when you were growing up, but somebody destroyed so much of who you could have been, you know, and go find it, sweetheart. You know, I wanted it for her. I kind of hoped she'd find Ryan, but even if she didn't, I didn't care. I just wanted her to find the slices of herself. Go find them, sweetie. Because sometimes we will shed so much of ourselves whether it's in service of finding love or what society tells us we're supposed to be. And we're like, okay, who I am ain't gonna work. I can't be this. And then one day we look back and we'll look at that person. Like you're 30 and you look at who you were at 20. And yeah, there was a lot about you at 20 that needed to be shaved off. But then you realize you lost a lot of the good stuff that you had when you're 20. You look back at that 20-year-old and go, you weren't complete garbage. There was a lot of good in you. And I got rid of that too. And I want to get some of that back, And so I was like, Salene, go find it, sweetheart. It made me really happy that she did that and didn't need anyone for it. Didn't need to have a discussion. I even love the fact that May knew that. Like, seriously, true love here. May knew what Salene was doing. And we never saw the conversation. She just knew. And even May is smiling, like she's going to find an old friend, like even May is happy for her. Like, go do what you got to do, Salene. Go find yourself, babe. It's actually a really nice way to end it. And even Apollo gets to be free, like that's actually really lovely.
He's free and he gets to trust people again.
Yeah. Very lovely. A rare jewel.
Yeah, it's a really nice exit.
When you put it like that, yeah, it's actually a very nice moment at the end.
And kind of going back, because we've mentioned Dal already, but it's such a shame that Dal didn't actually get a send-off like this instead of being, killed for the sake of
yeeted off a roof?
Baby. Yeah. Because it would have been nice to have seen him just kind of pack up and, have this sort of ending too.
Yeah, see him with a smile on his face and a backpack. Like, I'm going to find my bit of land, And Amber's like, I wish you well, old friend.
That's what we should have gotten, yeah.
Dal had to die in service of Amber. That's why he died.
Dal would have been happy traveling around with Sasha somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, eventually they would have parted ways and he would have gone and got his piece of land. But there's that as well. It's just, it's nice that Salene gets this.
I have to admit, it was one of those times where it's like, I was completely accepting of her leaving, and I was okay that even if I never saw her again, she went this way. This is how she left.
Yeah.
She wasn't scrubbed out of existence. Her departure wasn't something that didn't matter or whatever, or was just in service to someone else. Selene's leaving is only in service of Salene, and that is wonderful. It's not to push someone else's storyline forward. It's just for her sake. It was for her. Someone actually gave a damn, I don't know where, Victoria had to go, but I was like, this was actually a really beautiful send-off if we never see you again. Like, knowing that when she left, it was to go find herself and find some form of happiness and peace. And she was okay with her decision. Salene making a decision that was healthy for her, and like, again, for the first time ever. Yeah, like, wow, like that was nice. That was quite nice. I want her to find it. I want her. Like, I'm actually rooting for her. You know what I mean? Like, go.
That brings Series 3, Episode 44 to a close. Thank you very much to our panel. And if you'd like to take part in a future episode of the podcast, or even send us a message, you can contact us on our Facebook page, Instagram, or on our website. Just search for thetribe.co.uk or Conversations on Eagle Mountain. So we'll see you next time for episode 45. Until then, bye.
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 Bye.